Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody out there in podcast land. You are in tune to another episode of Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective. This is Hamza, and I'm really excited about our guest today. And I know I've gotten feedback from you guys saying that I'm always excited, but you do not understand. Our guest today, we've been going back and forth for several months. I've lost sleep, like, please, can we still get her on? Because our schedules would never sync. But as we all know, there's no accidents, and everything happens in the right time when it's supposed to. And so I will stop babbling to bring on our guest today, who for over 30 years, she has been introduced and a leader in the brain coaching field. She is a brain coach for anxiety transformation and success acceleration. She's worked with people all over the globe, all over the United States. She has a wonderful story. I can't wait to hear more about that. The main thing that I heard from her website, or read from her website for one of her clients, was that she gets to trick your brain into working for you. And in this time and day, I think we need any leverage that we can get to take us to that next level. I think our guest can point us in that direction. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bambi Thompson to the podcast. Welcome, Bambi.
Well, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. And I am glad we finally connected.
It was like when it's so hard because we hear everything happens for a reason. It happens when it's supposed to. And so when we kept pushing everything back, I had to keep that in the back of my mind. And today was the day.
Today was the day.
Today was the day, and it's Puebla. I used to think it was Pueblo, but it's Puebla Day, better known as Cinco de Mayo. And so we have to celebrate the Mexicans defeating the French in 1862. That is a reminder for all those that will be imbibing today, since the restaurants are slowly opening back up here in Atlanta. So anyway, what's the celebration landscape look like for you, and where are you in the world today?
Well, I'm in Maine, and on the coast of Maine, and the celebration in my home is I've got some black beans and butternut squash enchiladas brewing, making enchilada sauce. Love Mexican food, and restaurants are opening up here, with all the COVID precautions going on. But for the most part, restaurants are open in Maine. We're lucky.
Yes,
yeah.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. And for the past year or so, every guest has had a different opinion. It's so funny, or just interesting from a historical standpoint when we look back and see that every individual state in the Union had a different response to the pandemic. So I always ask what's going on where you are.
Yeah. Well, we definitely it tightened down pretty hardcore, and people are pretty respectful up here, wearing the masks. And honestly, I can say that for the majority of driving around town, things are up and running and looking good. And schools kind of they open, they might close a little bit. There's a little bit of a breakout, but for the most part, things are running pretty smoothly up here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And as a brain coach for anxiety transformation and success acceleration, what is the level of anxiety for your coaching clients been like last year versus this year?
Well, everybody's anxiety is high.
Mm-hmm.
There is no doubt about it. Whether it's due to financial, whether it's due to, health concerns, the world state, the environmental state. I mean, there's just such an onslaught of stress-inducing information and impacts on our bodies right now. So yeah, stress is pretty high. I work predominantly with entrepreneurial women, facilitating their confidence in their businesses. But as an entrepreneur, as you know, because you've got your own business, your anxiety is the driving force of your success or your failure. So it's imperative that you know how to rein in your brain. And so while the majority of my clients, my marketing is to entrepreneurial women, I certainly, today I'm working with a doctor, I'm working with a air flight attendant, 2 males, so I got it all going on. Honestly, I can say that every single person on the planet needs to know the skill sets and the tools that I teach.
Absolutely. One thing I do like on your site that I wanted to ask you about, since you promote to women, is you help brilliant big vision women. And a 2-part question is how you determine a brilliant big vision mind, or is your job to help them reach their potential by seeing a big vision if they hadn't beforehand?
Yeah, so a lot of the women that I work with have huge potential, but it is their anxiety or their, the stories, the beliefs, the programming, the wiring that makes it so they kind of can't get out of their own way. They're stuck in their procrastination. They can't, they've got like scarcity programming going on, so they're struggling with landing the money despite doing all the marketing. It's really about, we all have certain areas in our life where we are a little bit tweaked energetically and out of alignment with what our desires are. So these are women who really have big missions. They know that they have potential, and they're pissed off and bummed out that they can't seem to just step into, the level of success that they know that they are capable of. And, I always, say, and we hear a lot, we are our best clients. And, my brain was born wired to worry. And I am a brilliant, big vision woman with a lot of things that I choose to do and dream to do. And, there are certain areas in my life that it's like I have to work on clearing those energetic blocks to kind of smooth the wheels and get the momentum going. In my business, there's certain areas, and so that's kind of like I'm kind of the mute button for your mind and the accelerator switch for your success.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
When just looking at your site, your YouTube channel and such, I can kind of see that background, and it made me think of college. I went to school here. I went to Clark Atlanta, and it's in the Atlanta University Center. There's multiple schools there, namely Spelman, which is a girls' college, women's college, and Morehouse, which is a male college. And at the time, for the research, they were saying that the graduation rate at Clark Atlanta was like 4.5 to 5 years, but at Spelman and Morehouse, they were at 4 years. And they attributed it to having the same sex environment forced them to focus, whereas I was in a co-ed environment. And one thing that I noticed that we kind of laugh at is for an 8 o'clock class at our school, women were kind of dressed to the nines, but it's an 8 o'clock class on Spelman, they had on sweats. So the priorities were somewhat different. Are you finding that, since you primarily deal with women, but I know a few men kind of come through the cracks, are you seeing there's a different way to deal with the sex?
A different way of dealing with
gender? What? Dealing with the gender.
That's an interesting question. You mean as far as entrepreneurs go? Clarify that a little bit.
Sure. In today's market, to fast forward to 2021, it's pretty much every gender should be able, access to do anything, right? And so it's like the argument for and argument against. And I was just wondering, if you were to look at your profit and losses or just your client base is primarily women, did you find that if there are 10 women and 10 men, you would get more accomplished with the 10 women for feedback versus 10 men?
Well, so the work that I do, there's a lot of spiritual basis to the work that I do. I tend to attract women more than men anyway. And honestly, when it comes to like the results, it's all about the person, the follow through. And, men procrastinate as much as women do. And I find that it's really about the motivation, the intrinsic motivation of that person as far as the results that they get. But the work that I do, the way I work and the way I roll, resonates a lot with women.
And the reason why I was asking is my background's in corporate, and when I started my own thing, and I was introduced to, I know in some of your videos you were talking about Abraham and others.
Yep.
When I would go to, God Bless the Dead, Wayne Dyer and those folks that I could do it, and it was primarily women, and I'm like, that's actually how the intrinsic motivation for a homie's perspective came about, because we're at these conferences and there was like a handful of guys, and we're like, hey, we should have access to this too. And so that's why I was wondering, on the one hand. On the second hand, it sounds like your clients, is there a mix between, I guess, the muggles, or for those that watch movies, for the laymen that are used to, let's say, spiritual versus non-spiritual is the quickest way to say it. How are you navigating both worlds?
Well, it's interesting. I actually was hired by a school district here in Maine to teach what I was teaching to the kids. They approached me to be an anti-bullying, provide an anti-bullying program, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because I'm a law of attraction person, so I'm not exactly going to teach kids how to look for bullying, but I can be an inner resiliency. And so when I am in a school system, I have found the language that lands that is not too woo-woo, even though it's woo-woo stuff, if you will. It finding a way to communicate the tools, the strategies, the foundations of the framework that I teach out. You can find your ways to make it approachable to people of all faiths and people of all experiences. My whole business is about energy. Everything I do is energy. I'm, my spiel that I say, when I introduce myself is, I'm a brain coach for anxiety transformation and success acceleration. I teach you how to leverage neuroscience, mindset, the human energy body with the law of attraction, so that you're building your success from an energetic foundation as opposed to an efforting foundation. So even though everything I do is energy, I can weave in that, the kind of the science behind it, the reticular activating system and serotonin and dopamine. I can put it in language that people are like, oh, okay, I get that. It's not too weird. It's not too woo. But it's funny. I can, whenever I'm speaking to an audience, I can instantly pinpoint like the engineers in the room. Right? Based, and forgive me, all the listeners that are engineers, but there is definitely a certain way that they sit in my in the presence of my information, and I can see it's like they're, and then there's these other people that are like on the edge of their seats, just like loving it all. But I can always tell them out there, are you an engineer by any chance? Yes, I am. Oh, okay. How'd you know? And I said, nah, just a hunch. Yeah.
Well, I think you're being humble, since you are known as the mind whisperer, right?
Yeah.
The popular saying is, did you read the room? And I think it's probably second nature to you. Was that something that you had to develop because, like you said, you had to kind of get people on your side and speak in their language. So is that how'd you get to that point?
Well, the fastest way to get people on your side is to give them an experience, right, where they feel the transformation. And the really cool thing about the tools that I teach is that they're all stupid simple and highly impactful, and they create change. They create transformation that's pretty undeniable. So I'll give you an example. Can I guide you through a little experience there?
Please.
So that you can feel that? Okay. So one of the things about this work that I do is helping you to employ your brain and how it works to bring about a sense of empowerment or a sense of calm or being able to discharge some toxic negative energies or emotions or whatever. And I'm lazy, I want it fast, and I want it fun. So anything that I teach pretty much works for most people, and it gets results. So here's what I always do when I'm speaking to exemplify how powerful we are. So I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think of an experience where there was connection and total love. Maybe it's you have your puppy or your cat in your lap and you're stroking them. For women, it can be that holding your infant in the middle of the night, maybe having a breastfeeding session and the world is asleep. It's just you and your baby and you're looking into each other's eyes. Maybe it's a memory of, walking on the beach holding the hand of your partner and just feeling so much love and connection. So whatever the memory is for you, I want you just to sit in it for a minute.
Okay.
And feel the feeling of it. Get as visceral as you can with, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the touches. And tell me what your body feels like now as compared to when we were just chatting before.
More relaxed.
Yep. And this was a interesting thing that I fell upon just by happenstance. I was working with a woman who, while I was working with her doing some energy clearing around some beliefs and whatnot, she went into a full-blown panic attack. And she just couldn't bring herself back, and so I said, did you breastfeed your child? And she said, yeah. I said, okay, so I want you to think about 3 a.m. feeding, and you're sitting there and you're holding your baby and the world's asleep and da da da, and immediately I heard an audible and I watched her body relax, and it's like that panic attack is she focused her brain on a pleasurable, comforting, human connection, love, memory. Her brain switched off and started, changing what it was producing as far as, neurotransmitters and chemicals. So what's happening and what you feel, Hamza, is the release of oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love drug. It's the drug of connection, and it has this amazing power to change your heart rate and your blood pressure, and it just it has physiological impact on your body. So by using memories, you don't have to pop the pill to get there. You can use intentional thought to create different releases of different chemicals. The most popular TED Talk oh God, her name's blipped out of my head, but it's, I want to say, no, anyway, I can't remember. She talks about like how to get confidence and how you stand with your hands on your hips and you puff up your chest and you're like, before you go to speak or something, right? You want to get confident. Mm-hmm. So Sarah Covey, I think, might be her name. I don't know, and I wish I could remember the name of the TED Talk. Anyway, my point is she teaches different body stances and different hacks for your brain to release testosterone, which is, a contribution to that sense of confidence and power, right? So that's the cool thing. And when I do this, I call it the oxytocin trick. When I teach the oxytocin trick in my audiences, there is every single time, 100% of the time, there is an audible as people are breathing. I literally watch shoulders dropping, and and I'll say to the room, raise your hand really high so everybody can see. How many of you feel an energetic shift and you feel more peaceful and calm? And about 75 to 80% of the room has had that impact.
Mhm. Absolutely. I was wondering, because I was reading some of the testimonials, and one had read, I kept those two fingers pressed into my right thigh the whole time, and I know a little EFT, and I was like, I don't know that method. I was like, is that EFT? But you're talking posture.
No, the two fingers into your thigh is an anchoring technique. So what I do is we create a certain state of energy in our emotional, through our emotional state, through our mental focus, our intention, and the vibrational frequency of all of that. Once we have that buzz in our body, it might be where I'm talking about, maybe I'm working with somebody who's struggling with a health condition. I'll do a guided meditation with them. We'll get them into a heightened state of feeling that their body is healing and being supported by, divine energy. When that buzz is super, super high, because I put them into a meditative state, I have them press two fingers into their right thigh to anchor in this energetic state. Mm. And then two fingers on the left thigh, you've heard righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, right? Mm-hmm. So the right side is kind of like what we want to anchor in, what we want to receive, what we want to amplify. Left side is what we want to release, discharge, or, let go of. So the left thigh, I'll have them put two fingers onto the left thigh anytime they're feeling something that is not serving what they want to manifest, right? Thoughts, emotions, anxiety, anger, whatever it is. Press two fingers into the left thigh, and this is a whole guided meditation where we set this all up, but, in a nutshell, this is kind of what it is, but you need some more background to do the technique. But pressing two fingers in the left thigh is the activation switch to let it go. It's like opening a valve and letting that energy, that frequency, because I'm always talking frequency, vibration, letting that out, and then you can press on that same exact point every time. The right thigh will flood your body with that previously cultivated energetic state of confidence or healing or whatever, and it's very impactful. And I think that particular, testimonial was about a guy who closed a really significant coaching contract. Like, he came to me and an hour before, I haven't made any sales and I'm really frustrated and and I taught him that. And he was supposed to do a certain strategy before his sales call, and he closed the sale. And he was just so psyched because it's like it broke the cycle of that stuckness.
Very nice. And thanks for walking me through that. I really appreciate that. And I want to help get your assistance for me going back in time I want to share an experience with you in 2000 where I spent 50 cents. Okay? So in the business world, we all say a quarter, right? There's 4 quarters in the year. So those 2 quarters, that's hence the 50 cents. And that 50 cents, those 2 quarters, I spent at the time I was teaching second grade and dealing with administration because they were actually priming me to become assistant principal and then principal track. But it was a little overwhelming at the time. And that 50 cents, those 2 quarters, was spent on Paxil.
Paxil is my friend.
Right, I figured it was a trigger because I was like, wow, I was only on it for 2 quarters. You were on it for 7 years.
Yeah.
So I'd like for you to kind of go back and share 1997, I believe, was your, we always call it your hello or your awakening moment.
Yeah.
If you could talk a little bit about that and how you got into energy and vibration and such.
Yeah, that's a really cool story, actually. So, as I said, I was born wired to worry. At like the age of 8, I was sitting on a school bus looking out a window, and I had this thought circling around and around and around and around, and I couldn't stop it. And I had the wherewithal at age 7 or 8 to say to myself, this is kind of weird. I can't stop this thought. I wonder if everybody else is like this. And I actually said to myself, it's a good thing it's a positive thought. Because if it wasn't, I'd be in trouble. Well, that was a little bit of a looking into the future, because as I grew older and responsibilities were, loaded up more and more, that cycling happy, every day kind of normal stuff circling around started getting a little bit darker, a little bit more worrisome, more and more, the what if, oh my God, what if, and and it finally landed me in anxiety, and then over time, debilitating panic disorder. And everything I had tried was external coming in. It was all natural stuff, but it wasn't enough to hold away the, when I really fell off the edge of the abyss into the panic disorder. And so as much as I did not want to do it, I did go on Paxil, because I've been holistically, naturally, that's been my default forever, pretty much. But Paxil saved my life for sure. And when I came off the Paxil, I started to kind of feel the gremlins coming in again. And I did the slow off Paxil. It was a long haul. It took me a year, I think, to get off it completely, because I respected, my brain needed to kind of recalibrate slowly and gently. So I did that right, but still, I could feel, it's like the fingers were starting to get in my brain again. It was like I was starting to get weird again. And I went, okay, I got to do this from the inside out now. I'd been taking flower essences and doing acupuncture and this and that. It was everything external coming in. And at that point, I got real serious about working from an internal perspective of trying to regulate what was going on with my thinking. And I'll never forget, at one point, I had a stopwatch. My life was so wrapped up in this anxiety. It was everything about my life was the anxiety. And I had a stopwatch, and I was timing how long could I hold away that feeling of anxiety out of my body and have like a still point. And it was like 12 seconds. And then it would come in again, And I remember I can see myself sitting on the floor with my back against my sofa, and I got pissed off. And I felt that next wave of anxiety come, and I said, no. It was like I just was like angry, and I saw this hand of light just boom, pushing it down. And for me, the cortisol release happens in my root chakra. And so I can feel it really low, and then I can feel it creeping up through my body, literally up until it gets into my brain, and then I'm done for like 3 hours. I can't get myself back to a positive thought for like 3 hours. So I got pissed off, and I was like, no, and I saw this hand of light like push down that cortisol release energy that I was feeling. It's like heat coming up through my pelvis and into my belly and into my chest and up my neck and then into my head. And I could hold it for a couple more seconds down in my pelvis. And I was like, I controlled that. And then I did it again. And I could control it a little bit longer. And I started playing with this light in my body. And I started like learning how to shift and move energy in my body, kind of like using this light. So fast forward a number of years, by then I had mastered myself, and I was doing a lot of work teaching meditation and just sharing my tools with the people that I loved in my life. You know, it wasn't a business or anything yet. And I was working with my friends who had cancer, and because I had homeschooled my kids, I was available to take them to chemo and during the day, you know, when everybody else was working. So there were 4 women that I went through their chemo journey with them. And one of them, at one point, I was doing a guided meditation as, you know, they're plugging in the chemo. And it's always about talking to the body and saying only what will serve your highest good will be received. Everything else will be easily flushed out. And then we would do visualization around the cancer site and da-da-da-da. Anyway, and this one day, I'm doing this meditation, and my rib starts hurting. And it was like, oh, man, sorry, my rib is really hurting. And my friend looked at me with this weird expression on her face, and she goes, how did you know that? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, how do you know that? That's exactly where my pain is. And I said, oh, no, that's not about you. That's about me. Like, this is my rib is hurting, right? And so I'm going on with the guided meditation, and I'm like, oh, whew, man, there it goes. And she said, how did you do that? And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, at the exact moment that you said that, it's when my pain left. And I was like, that's kind of weird. So then as I started working in that meditation, I started doing what I do for my own body. And I could change what was happening sensation-wise in her body. And we discovered that I was actually in her energy field. And I had no idea that could even be done, that I could do that. And so I went back to one of my healers that I'd been working with, and I said, I had this really freaky experience. You know, it seemed like I was experiencing physically what was going on with this woman. And my healer looked at me, and she goes, well, yeah, duh, you're an energy healer. Didn't you know that? And I was like, hello, no. I had no freaking clue. So actually what turned out, when I say I was born wired to worry, I actually was born wired to heal. Mm-hmm. And I had been an empath all of my life and an intuitive, not knowing it, with my energy field wide open. So all my life I was attracting people that were in crisis and suffering, and they would come to me and glom onto me and say, I feel so comforted just by your voice. Being in your presence, I calmed down, you know, and I was like, oh, well, that's good. I'm glad I have some nice words for you. You know, I didn't know what was going on. Anyway, right. So long story short that is how I realized that my anxiety was not me knowing how to self-regulate my highly attuned energy field and my capacity to feel and tap into other things. And once I learned how to do that, how to clear my field from other people's suffering and pain, it was a game changer for my personal anxiety.
Mm. And the big part is the last thing you just said. I want to stay there for a second because you said clearing your space. And so the person that comes to mind is Sylvia Brown. You know, she was a great medium, what have you, but energetically it looked like she was carrying other people's energy until the end. So how are you able, I think in for the past couple of years, people are coming into their own in that energy space. but they don't know how to clear. So how are you making the distinction of your energy versus another's?
Yeah, well, I have a way that it's kind of like muscle testing, but for me it's my eyes. So that's how I communicate with the divine. And, I can ask questions and get yes/no answers, so to speak. My eyes roll up in my head, my eyes roll down. So I would be asking, is this mine or is this somebody else's, right? And when I'm clearing, and I teach this to my clients, I mean, clearing your energy field, it can be as simple as putting a left spinning vortex around you, like a tornado around you, spinning to the left. That is catabolic energy. That's like pulling off, sucking off, breaking down, right? So when you are in a situation where you're feeling something that is uncomfortable, you can do a left spin of energy around you, set that intention, and that'll kind of like dissipate it, quiet it down, and then I finish off with a right spin, which is bringing the divine energy and, love, compassion, understanding, all the good stuff, right, to purify and bring in. And that's so after each client, I'll just do a left spin vortex, and I'll like suck it out of the roof of my office, and then I'll right spin a vortex of white light coming down in, and it's very quick and easy. That's how I clear and teach my clients to clear. But here's an interesting thing: when you feel like an emotion suddenly come in, you've had that experience where you're like going along, you're happy-go-lucky, and then all of a sudden you're kind of like bummed out, or you're feeling blue, and it's like, wow, where did that come from, right? It's like, that's weird, what's going on? Ask, is this mine? Mm-hmm. And you have to have, your intuitive reading of yes or no, whether it's that a lot of people do standing, and they lean forward for a yes, they lean back for a no. My eyes do the roll up, roll down. You can do muscle testing or whatever, but just ask, is this mine? And I can't tell you how often it is not yours. This energy, this emotional thing that glommed onto you, it's kind of like you walked into a bubble of frequency that somebody left behind as they were walking down. This happens to me in the city a lot. I'm walking down the street, and all of a sudden I'll be hit with incredible sadness. Mm-hmm. And I'll ask, is this mine? No. Then what you do is return to sender with consciousness and love, and just return it back. And you'll be amazed. That energy will leave your body. Mm-hmm. And as I work with my clients, like I go through a belief checklist when I first start working with them, because we want to excavate as many beliefs as possible, and I have a cool process that we can do like a massive amount of beliefs in about an hour and a half. We go through and we'll ask on the belief checklist, is this mine? And most of the time, most of my clients have 50 to 70 or 80% of the beliefs that they have grown up with and thought were theirs, and they were never theirs to begin with. And it was as simple as return it to sender with consciousness and love. And that belief just slips off energetically. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Fast and furious.
We want it yesterday.
I want it fast. I want it fun.
Yes, indeed. I'm on the same page, so I have to ask you, because Atlanta was trending on the internet 2 days ago now, because we were in the 12-state radius of all these tornadoes that had touched down.
Oh,
and so I want to ask you about a typical day for you, right? Because it sounds like myself, where I can be a type A and I have every minute accounted for, and then the power's out for the whole day and you can't do anything. So how are you able to pivot when you want things yesterday?
Well, I pivot real well. I am really in the belief that everything that I'm experiencing is an external reflection of an internal something. in me, right? If if you're really going to go down the wormhole and get into quantum physics, and work on a basis of the law of attraction, I take every opportunity to go inward and go, isn't this interesting? I was supposed to, finish my my online course today. I had it all set up, and power went out. Okay, so all right, what is the lesson there for that? Maybe is it that I'm just needing to chill out and go play for the day? Okay. Is it that I need to look at, I'm a little bit freaked out about launching that online course, a little bit nervous about that visibility or whatever, so it's an opportunity to reflect inside and go, what is inside of me that is, manifesting as this sort of thing? And so I just kind of look at everything as there's a lesson, there's a reflection or an energy that needs to be cleared or something. So I kind of like roll along with things, and very often, I'll jump into, guess I'm just supposed to chill out today, right? And go do something fun.
My takeaway was gratitude, because while I'm complaining about the 8+ hours without power, at least the power came back on. There weren't trees. I mean, there was a lot of significant damage across the Southeast, and I didn't experience it, which brings me to going back to I Can Do It. So not only was Wayne Dyer there, but Greg Braden was there, and at the time he was talking about collectivism, and they were able to measure the collective mindset at this time of 9/11. They were able to measure it. And so what you were saying is, hey, maybe I need to sit back. So would I extrapolate that the South collectively is going through inner turmoil? That's why this happened on such a great level?
Ask that question again in a different way.
Sure. Usually there's a tornado and we see the news, it hit Alabama. One place, two places. This was 12 states, significant damage, right? Yeah. And let's take global warming off the table. But from a collectivism, as far as, because a lot of us are walking around on autopilot, we're not asking who does this belong to, or is it mine,
right?
Or doing any of those. So would that affect the climate, the weather that we've had over the past couple of days?
Well, if everything is energy, right? And we are all impacted by the lunar cycle, the moon. We're all emotionally impacted by the wind. We're all emotionally impacted by, when it's overcast versus sunny. So that's, the influence of external things coming to us, but wouldn't it also make sense? It's not a one-way valve. I mean, the energy is flowing everywhere, and I don't know about creating tornadoes, but certainly I feel like the collective consciousness is very, very potent and powerful, and it absolutely impacts everything. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that when I'm dealing with somebody, let's say, who is, talking law of attraction in these days, that can piss a lot of people off because they're dealing with things that are really out of their control, right? Mm-hmm. We've got racial things going on. We got a lot of shit going on. But the contribution that I speak to is being able to take responsibility for myself and my contribution to everything energetically, right? And there's a lot of stuff inside of me that is collectively, that is being putting out into the major collective that's in my subconscious that I don't even know is in there. Mm-hmm. And so it's taking personal responsibility for just acknowledging, wow, there's something happening out here that is extremely uncomfortable. It's extremely unfortunate. And anything inside of me that is a contribution to that, I release and let go. I transform and, just uncreate and destroy it. Like, do whatever I can for my own energetic contribution to something. And there's a lot of things that I don't even know that I'm energetically contributing. So when I see things like, oh, wow, okay, there's a whole bunch of tornadoes going on and whatnot, I'll just get a little quiet inside and say, anything inside of me that is a contribution to this. I release and let go. I uncreate and destroy. I, transcend, transform, surrender it. And then I bring in light and love. And I work a lot with Ho'oponopono. Are you familiar with that?
Very, yes. Love it.
Yep. So I work a lot with Ho'oponopono, and I will, first ask my body, my energy, my ancestors, whatever, let stuff go, and then I will Ho'oponopono and send that energy into, the devastation, the tornadoes, the families, the, street riots, the whatever's going on, right? I that's my contribution. I'm not a out on the streets rioting kind of girl. I am a let's do the inner work here for me and my personal contribution. Yeah,
absolutely. I do. In that vein, one of your videos on YouTube is about rewiring the brain, and one thing that I acknowledge and am thankful for in the third dimension is that time, or at least manifestation, even though we may want it yesterday, is not as quickly as it would be in the fourth, fifth, sixth dimension. And so as I interpret the rewiring the brain for a law of attraction standpoint, you may ask for something and it didn't happen immediately, but it's on its way. Like Abraham would say, stop looking at it or stop going to the kitchen and leave the chef alone and let him cook it.
Yeah.
But this energy comes in and you didn't realize you asked for it 6 months ago, but it's coming now. How do you sit in that space and rewire your brain of, wow, this is really coming, but it's beyond. I mean, it's like the grace of the universe is so much. They kind of laugh like we're not asking for enough. So you're in a space that's like, wow, I only asked for $10. Here's a $100,000 situation coming through. How are you able to have that energy support that you've been asking for, or acknowledge that?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of times we don't even, like in retrospect, we go, oh, God, I actually manifested that. I remember I was, working on that a while back. Yeah, and I will absolutely validate that whatever we are working on, if we can really keep our energy clear, that's why everything about my business is about clearing the beliefs, the traumas, the stories, the head trash that is muddying up the energetic frequency. If you can keep your energy clear and you're doing your manifestation work, I can guarantee you that whatever the universe brings you is going to be so far beyond what you ever would have even imagined. I have manifested things in my life that I didn't even have the bandwidth or the neurological wiring to conceive that it was possible.
Right.
Seriously. So I have this great analogy of teaching people why things take a long time and why things happen really fast. So it's my Jell-O bowl analogy. And so imagine that you are a singular molecule in a giant bowl of Jell-O, and that singular molecule is flavoring the Jell-O bowl with every thought that you have, because your thought is a frequency. So it's like when you throw a pebble into a pond that's flat and glassy, there's a ripple effect, right? So every thought has a ripple effect through this giant Jell-O bowl. And so some days, you think a thought that it's like, wow, I'm freaking amazing. And it's like, boom, your whole Jell-O bowl is flavored with, I'm freaking amazing. And then, an hour later, something happens, you're like, oh, man, I suck. And it's like, bam, your Jell-O bowl is, I suck. So your Jell-O bowl is the matrix within which your actions are going to be impacted, impacting that Jell-O, and also the Jell-O is impacting it. So imagine that your actions that you're taking to build your business or your success or heal your body or find a partner, whatever, is like taking a bow and arrow, and you're shooting from the center of this very, very large Jell-O bowl. You're shooting an arrow. That's your activity, right, that you're doing, your manifesting work, whatever, your rituals, blah, blah, blah. And that arrow shaft, as it goes through this Jell-O bowl, is being completely coated with the flavor of the Jell-O. Now, if you've been in a, God, life is really hard. There's never enough money. I don't have enough energy to work harder to make more money. If that's the flavor of your Jell-O bowl, and you're working your ass off in your business, or you're trying to, find a job or whatever, shooting arrows in that matrix, that arrow is going to go out, boom, leave the Jell-O bowl, go out into the quantum field where there's a big genie in the sky, law of attraction, whatever. The genie grabs it, your arrow, catches it when it shoots to it. It licks it and goes, oh, life is really hard. There's never enough money. I can't find a job. It turns around behind it, and there's a giant shelf, like a warehouse shelf of experiences, right? And he goes and looks for the, oh, life is really hard. I can't find a job shelf of experiences. Pulls an experience off it, attaches it to your arrow, and then throws the arrow back to you. It, again, has to go through the Jell-O bowl to come boink and land in your life. So if you're constantly having thoughts and frequencies that are lowering the vibration of, life is joyful, I am healthy, I am abundant, all of life is supporting me, like all these high vibration resonances, if you live in there with a pure Jell-O bowl flavor, shit manifests really fast. But if you're constantly dipping the vibration down of your Jell-O bowl with a lot of time spent in life is hard, I don't have enough money, I'll never have this, I'll never have that, I never heal, blah, 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 that's why manifestations take so long, because that arrow has gone out, the universe has sent back whatever flavor the arrow was launched in, and then it gets a double coating of your Jell-O bowl. And sometimes you can raise the frequency, so when it comes back through, it that experience gets a little bit better before it lands in your life. But a lot of times, you're launching a lot of arrows where you're like, oh man, I'm on fire, I'm amazing. But then in the meantime, you've lowered your frequency, and it makes that you're asking to manifest $1,000. Well, maybe you only manifested $40 because in the meantime, you lowered your frequency again. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. Total sense.
Yeah.
And on those lines, before getting on, we were talking about things opening up, and I'm a big music person like you are, so I'm really excited about the festivals and stuff coming back. And I do know the first thing in the morning, I'll hear these earworms, and sometimes I'll get it right away, but it may be later in the day, like, oh, that was what I'm supposed to learn today, or whatever I was mulling over. And I wanted to get your take on being an intuitive channel for divine music as well.
Yeah, so I have this weird gift. It's pretty cool. I am able to translate a person's energy body into a piece of music. And then I use that piece of music as the backdrop for like a neural reprogramming audio for them, where they're either using that music with an established protocol that I set up for them of, we're rewiring new beliefs, or I might have a subliminal audio vocal on that track as well. All depends on, what level of coaching they're working on with me. But yeah, so the cool thing about it is this, what I do is I work with the person first. I get them into a super clear energetic state where they're very, very high frequency. And then I go to the piano and I essentially channel their energy body into this piece of music so that every time they listen to it, it puts them into this super high, open, loving, joyful state. And when you visualize and you're in that really, really high crystalline frequency, it's very deeply embedding into your subconscious mind. And so, yeah, people love their piece of music because it's like they're meeting themselves. And every time I channel somebody's music, like I turn around, once I'm done at the piano, and they just have tears streaming down their face, and it's just like mic drop. Like they can't even say anything. They're just like, that was unbelievable. And the cool thing is that every time they listen to that piece of music, that is the feeling state that they are able to access.
I love it.
Yeah.
And we're at the top of the hour, but I do have another question that is not woo-woo related.
Yeah.
I do have to say that I love your jacket on your site, and I wanted to know, it seems like a power jacket for you, and I didn't know if you had a motorcycle or a moped.
No, I have a 36-foot wooden catch. I'm a sailor.
Nice.
I'm a lot slower than the motorcycle. and that leather jacket never goes on my boat. That's really funny. I love that jacket. I feel like I'm freaking badass in that jacket.
I can tell. I'm looking at it like I got to ask her about this jacket.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, so it's so funny. People will say to me, you wear a lot of black, and I know you're a badass and everything, but you're also so powerful and spiritual, and don't you think you should be wearing white? And I'm like, I don't know. I really like black for whatever reason. But just recently I saw somebody. He was I don't know what he was, like a shaman or something, and he was like, you should never wear black.
Sadhguru?
Yeah, maybe. Have you seen that one? It's a YouTube
yeah, I did.
video.
I was going to ask you that because black is supposed
it absorbs
to absorb
everything, right?
Right. Yes.
So it kind of got me thinking. So I'm thinking the wardrobe is going to shift up. We're going to upgrade the light in my wardrobe.
As an empath, you're like, well, I mean, you have more control, but for an empath listening, right? You're like, why do I keep drawing this energy? Well, what are you wearing?
A lot of black. Yeah,
a lot of black.
Yeah, a lot of black. Yeah, I definitely was like, oh.
Because now, I mean, hopefully no one else passes, but but at a funeral, you're not going to wear black because that's a lot of energy there. So it's been a pleasure, and I know we shared so many goodies, and like all others, this hour flies by. But I can only imagine if I can pull one thing and can have my own particular individual music that speaks to me, getting that from you, I'd love for you to share your site, your information where people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, so it's BambiThompson.com, and it's BambiThompson.com, and a really great place to start is if you BambiThompson.com/gift. And I have a free Momentum Accelerator jumpstart, and it's like a little mini course. And it talks about the Jello Bowl. It talks about there's a number of there's some EFT tapping there for breaking free from procrastination. There's an entrepreneurial meditation which has a piece of my music on there and some vocals, and it's just a kind of a good little package to get yourself into momentum and to be able to kind of quiet down the anxious, the scarcity, the beliefs that are within you, and that's a really great way to start. And then I do offer free strategy sessions for people to come with their challenge, and I'll give them a little something to nibble on to start working on, and say, based on what you're struggling with, this is what I offer that might help you. And so check it out for sure. And I have YouTube. I'm on YouTube. Lots of videos over there. Yeah.
Good deal.
Thank you so much, Hamza. This was really a fun conversation.
Sure. And with that, you have just been in tune to another episode of Intrinsic Motivation from a Homie's Perspective. This is Hamza and Bambi. Bambi, it was a pleasure. Let's definitely stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.